Hi there, this is Dr. Embody with Project 11, our last project. This project is supposed to be easier than the last few, trying to ease into the final week. You will find a lot of similarity to Lab 13, that's why we did Lab 13 this week rather than next week. If you haven't done Lab 13, do Lab 13 before you do this project because it will really help you out a lot. And that's part of what we have going on with this. So let's dive into this. Like Lab 13, we're dealing with pets and dogs and cats and things like that. And let's take a look at it. So the project, a pet has certain attributes. Such as, it's got a species, and the only kind that we have are dogs and cats. It'll have some name like Fido. It'll have a gender, and again, we're restricted just to male and female, and it will have some kind of a fur color. It also has some other attributes that are related to its physical and mental health, such as energy, hunger, thirst, loneliness, smell, and so on. And these will go up and down. So we're going to have these pets, and for example, if you play with the pet, then its energy level goes down, and maybe it starts to smell because it needs a bath after you've played with it. And after you've played with it, maybe it gets hungry, and maybe it gets thirsty. So you play with it, the energy level will go down, the hunger will go up, the thirst will go up, the loneliness will go down, the smell will go up, and these types of things. And these attributes will be numbers in the range from 0 to 10. And so we have some actions. The pet can take a nap, sleep, so its energy level will go up. You could feed it so its hunger level will go down. You can feed it some water. We're trying to keep it simple here in that sense. And you can play with your pet, and you can bathe your pet. And then some things will change, like I mentioned. If you feed the pet, his or her hunger level will be decreased, and so on. So we specify all that. And we give you a skeleton for a lot of this. So there's a class which has all of these items, and we tell you, some are strings, some are floats, some are lists, that are in the init function. And we give you that, but we don't assign these any values. So let's take a look at this. Here's our skeleton, and when you look at the skeleton, for example, self.name equals none, and so one of your jobs is to replace that with something useful. Well, you can see here that that one of the arguments to the initialization function here is a name, and it has a default value, and so we can replace this with name, but name has to be capitalized, so we can call the string function that we have, and there we go. Now we've taken care of name, and you have to do something similar for these other ones. These, these guys will be strings. These guys will be lists. These guys will be floats, and you got to figure out what are the appropriate values, and they're all specified. And there are other parts of this that we gave you, right? So this is given to you. As time goes by, these values will change. it turns out getting these gets, these will be one line of code. All you do is return a value. So that's with these get functions that we have here. And then you get down to a function that's a little bit more interesting. And so, for example, the drink function. Now, you know, these are filled in like all these things with passes. This else should be aligned with the if, and then at the very end we update the status. So this stuff has got to be indenting because we have an else associated with that. And what we do is we check that the liquid that gets passed in is in fact a drinkable item, and you know, and so then we go along and say, all right, so if our pet has a drink, then its thirst should go down. And how this works is all specified in the document. So let's take a look at that. So here's the drink method, and it you know, we specify a bunch of things to do in there, and there are things like, okay, we've got to get this self.drinkable items. Now, how do we get the quantity out of that? Oh, well, you know, the quantity that we get out of that is we have to look at the edible file. You know, how do we get the quantity of a liquid? Well, let's take a look at the edible file. Some type of food, and we're and you know, so we got the food up there. Here we've got something that's drinkable, and look at that. We need, you know, there is a get quantity method, and so what we will do in here then at some point is we will have, okay, so here's my, I've got a liquid, and I know that, you know, it's the right instance, so I'm in here, and then I can say my liquid dot get quantity, because I got that in my edible.py file. So that's how I knew. So we gave you some methods. What's nice about this particular project as compared to project 10 is that our, you know, the file that we provide you here is immensely less complicated than the last one that you had to deal with. So you have to take care of drink. Feed is almost exactly the same way, except you'll be dealing with food rather than liquids. Similarly with shower and sleep and play with, you know, those are, you know, those are the ones you have to write. This function we gave to you, we expect you to put a doc string in there. And then you're going to have to show we can get the status of a pet, and you know, that's, you know, here's what the status looks like, and so you're going to have to do that in, but we give you a lot of formatting there just to help you out with that. This function here is complete, don't have to worry about it. So the next big thing that you have to do is create a class for pet and a class for dog. This is a lot like what you did in the lab. You know, you're going to have to do things like, just like you did in the lab, you're going to have to start out by calling oops, double underscore init from the and figure out the right parameters that go in there. So this is a pet, and so we want to call the pet initialization there, initialization, the constructor there, and then you'll find that you have to extend one of the lists that you actually you have to extend both lists that you have, and you know, so this creation of this class, it turns out it is like just a few lines of code, and you just have to, by looking at the specifications and looking at what we've given you, you have to fill that in. But it's a very simple, it's a very short class that you have to create, and then and then you have to use it. And we give you some prompt stuff and so on, and that's where you'll be saying, okay, I want what's your pet and what's his name, and now okay, I'm going to feed it, and so on. And so we end up with this driver in here that you have to write. At this point, you've written a lot of drivers, and so it's just sort of following the rules that we have. Again, hopefully you will find this to be an easier project than the last one. So hopefully I've given you enough to get a start on it. Good luck.